We want to talk about heat stroke and why it's so important. Heat is the #1 weather-related killer, by the way. You know, we often think about tornadoes and hurricanes and floods. It's heat. So there's a difference between saying, oh, I'm kind of hot and I just want a drink of water. If you feel that, go get that. But if you start having a throbbing headache, you get dizzy or you're lightheaded, or importantly, you're not sweating, you're hot but you're not sweating, that is a problem. That means that you are starting to potentially have that heat stroke. Red, hot, dry skin. I mean, you're visibly looking hot, muscle weakness or cramps. Or, of course, if you have nausea, vomiting, your heartbeat is rapid, any of these things, you're going to want to call 911 immediately and get yourself cool immediately because it's very dangerous. But something else I want to talk about that is much more dangerous is how quickly it can warm in a closed car. And unfortunately, we talk about these things every single year. So I want to give you an example. So we brought the car out, but I'm not going to use like a day that's 110 outside. Let's take a day where the sun is shining. You see all the rays of light here. But we're looking at a high temperature of, let's just say, 85 degrees, right? Not a crazy day. We'll say a low humidity 85 degrees. By all accounts, delightful. So what I want to do, we're going to drive the car up, and we're going to look inside the car. And what I put in there is a timer, and I put the temperature inside the car. Let's say your windows are down because it's 85 and it's beautiful. So you park the car, same inside as it is outside. Then you roll the windows up. You decide to go in and just run into the store real quick. Watch what happens in just 15 minutes. That temperature inside the car can go to 97 degrees. Let's say you're going to be in there longer. You're going to go into a grocery store. So you're in there for about a half an hour or so. You see the timer in there. 85 outside. In just 30 minutes, that car could warm to 116. Take a crazy example, like you're going to go into the mall or, heaven forbid, you're going to be at work and you're not in the car all afternoon. 85 outside, and that temperature, I mean, look at that, could warm to 125 degrees. So how quickly can it warm up in the car when you're looking at that? Temperatures can climb 20 degrees in just 10 minutes or up to 40 to 50 degrees in an hour. So it goes without saying, never, and I mean never, leave a child or a pet in the car. It is just so heartbreaking because that car can become absolutely deadly. Please remember that, especially on days when those temperatures are in the mid-90s like they're going to be. We'll talk more about that coming up in just a bit. I want to stay cool. I mean, let's start. I want to talk a lot about the temperatures here, and we'll focus in on the storms potentially tomorrow coming up in just a moment. 91 our high temperature today, so as Brian just mentioned, third day in a row with 90 degrees or greater. That officially makes it a heat wave for us. 92 so far, our high temperature in Manassas. Got 95 in Luray, got 94 in Cumberland. So let's talk about the 90s. Through today's date, we have now had 15 days with a high temperature of 90 or greater. Last year to this date, we had 24. So we're way behind. And prior to maybe last week or so, I mean, I've had many of you mention like, this summer has not been all that bad. And that's the numbers. It hasn't when you're looking at the numbers themselves. The most that we've had year to date back in 1994, already by the 20th of July, we had 38 days of 90 degrees or greater. Now, that's way up there compared to the one day back in 1886. Now, average to this time, this year, 20. The average for a year is 40. So we're behind schedule. And in fact, this heat wave that we have is our first one. Today, 3 days in a row of 90 degrees. Let's talk about the longest heat waves. I know there's a lot of numbers on the bottom. Don't focus so much on these. 10 days in a row. I mean, we had that 13 different times. Advance all the way up here. The longest heat wave that we've ever had was 21 days in a row with temperatures of 90 degrees or greater in D.C. That was back in 1988 and again in 1980. But you might remember 2020, we had 20 of those days here. 28 of the 31 days of the month had high temperatures into the 90s, and it was a record for the month. I remember it very well. It was in the height of the pandemic. We are all working from home. Myself, I have, of course, as many of you know if you watch the show, I have the full home studio in my garage. Out in the garage that month, I really recall that, but we had that 20-day stretch. So we're not there. We're day 3 right now, but we look at our temperature trend. We're going to be there all the way through the weekend. So 4, 5, 6, 7. We're going to go a week, maybe more, of temperatures into the 90s. And then you add the heat index, you add the humidity to it, and it's going to play a big role. So heat safety, you're going to want to drink lots of fluids. Now, this is not rocket science. I'm not breaking new ground here, but I am trying to remind you, it's something that I do myself. I have my water back there. I drink at least 4 or 5 bottles of those 16 ounces every day. You're going to want to wear the loose clothes outside. You're going to take the breaks, get in the shade when you can, get a fan on you if you can, and check on people and your neighbors, that pets. Because remember, the pets certainly bring them inside, but there's some people still without power, and that's when it could become dangerous, if not deadly. So very important stuff. We're going to be talking about that 7-day coming up in just a few minutes.